My name is Roshēn ئابباس. I was born on June 14, 1967 in Urumqi. I studied biology at so-called Xinjiang University from 1984 until 1988. I started my activism work while I was a student, being one of the co-organizers of the pro-democracy demonstrations at Xinjiang University in 1985 and 1988, which preceded the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989. After graduating from the university in 1988 with the second highest score in the entire biology department at the Xinjiang University, I was left jobless as the government's retaliation for my activism as a student. I left my homeland at the urging of my father because of my involvement in a student activism and the fears of repercussions from the Chinese Communist Party's officials. After coming to the United States in 1989 as a visiting scholar, then I was accepted for a master's program to study plant pathology at Washington State University. I currently live in Herndon, Virginia, USA. I have always been a vocal human rights activist for the Uyghur people. In 1993, I co-founded the Uyghur Overseas Students and the Scholars Association, and also I was elected and served as the vice president of the Uyghur American Association for 2 terms. In 1998, I started working as the first Uyghur reporter for Radio Free Asia Uyghur Service. I currently work as the executive director of the NGO Campaign for Uyghurs, based in Washington, D.C., which we founded in 2017 to advocate for the people of East Turkestan and to highlight the voices of Uyghur women and the youth. I believe my own family's suffering to be as a result of retaliation by the Chinese Communist regime for my advocacy work. I am testifying for my sister, Dr. Gulshan Abbas, a retired medical doctor who disappeared on September 10, 2018, and for the entire family of my husband, Abdul Hakim Idris. He served as the General Inspector of the World Uyghur Congress and has also been diligently advocating for Uyghur human rights for decades. He studied at Al-Azhar University in Egypt and co-founded the World Uyghur Congress. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, Abdul Karim Zikrullah Idris and Habib Khan Idris, are 74 and 72, and they are farmer and a housewife respectively. My 3 younger sister-in-laws, Turanisa Khan Idris, aged 49, Buaisha Khan Idris, aged 42, and Bukhadija Khan Idris, aged 32, are all housewives raising kids at home. Their so-called excessive religious activities by the CCP were wearing a headscarf and regularly praying at home. Their 3 husbands are also law-abiding ordinary people living ordinary lives and were also taken to the camps. My brother-in-law, Abdurrahim Idris, aged 44, was sentenced to 21 years in jail for fasting during Ramadan and for obeying the traditional dietary restrictions of Islam, which is not eating pork and not drinking alcohol. His wife Amina is also missing. The last time my husband spoke to his family was on April 25th, 2017. He and I have not been able to find out the whereabouts of my in-laws or anyone in the family ever since then. We have no idea where my husband's 14 nieces and nephews are today. A total of 24 families are missing from my husband's family. The family all lived together in a large house in a good neighborhood called the town Laskui Badar in Khotan City in East Turkestan. My husband Abdul Hakim Idris has been trying to use any possible ways he could think of to find out his family's whereabouts since the summer of 2017 without success. On September 5th, 2018, I took part in a panel at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C., where I spoke about the conditions of the camps and the atrocities and the genocidal crimes that Uyghur people are facing by the Chinese regime, while also outlining the fate of my in-laws. 6 days later, my own sister, Dr. Gulshan Abbas, born on June 12, 1962, was taken from her home in Urumqi. There is still absolutely no information on my sister's whereabouts. She is 59 years old. I learned from Radio Free Asia on the June 2nd, 2020, that she was confirmed to be detained after they called the hospital where she used to work. By speaking with an employee there, they confirmed it. There was still no words from the Chinese authorities and no answers to our requests to speak to her. I also can testify 2 Uyghurs who are the victims of this genocide. One was my high school classmate's brother. His name is Qaisar Qayyum, the editor-in-chief of a literary magazine in Urumqi. The conditions are so intolerably bad that 55 years old Qaisar Qayyum in August 2017 committed suicide by jumping from an 8th floor window out of fear of being detained. The other one is my friend from my university, Waris Abu Bakri, who was 53 years old when he was detained in Urumqi and taken to one of the concentration camps in January 2019. He was then released in early November of 2019 and died on November 24th, 2019, only 2 weeks after being released. We received information through a third party on December 25th, 2020 about my sister that she was given a harsh prison sentence on the false so-called terrorism charges. December 30th, we had a press conference with the U.S. Congressional Executive Committee on China to address this news. Following the press conference on December 31, 2020, the Chinese Foreign Ministry held a press conference where the spokesperson Wang Wenbin confirmed her sentencing, stating that she was involved with terrorist activities without offering any evidence. This was a direct contradiction to the piece published in Chinese state-run media outlet Global Times, in which they accused me in December 2019 of making up my sister. Now we hear that she was sentenced in March of 2019, well before Chinese state media published this libel against me. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has continued to accuse my organization of being connected with separatism and terrorism, and also to smear me and dehumanize me and discredit my work. But I still have not seen any proof of life or concrete information regarding my sister's condition, her wrongful sentencing or extraditional detainment. My sister is a retired medical doctor, non-political, warm-hearted, loving, caring, and kind mother. She devoted all her life helping people and saving lives as a medical doctor. The charges against her are baseless and preposterous. She has been punished for her family members' Uyghur human rights advocacy work in the United States, and she was being treated merely as China's scapegoat. The fact that she was secretly detained, arrested, and sentenced proves she has suffered great injustice. The atrocities and the genocidal crimes committed against the Uyghur people are well documented, widespread, and horrific. The cruel treatment of my sister is a direct retaliatory action. The burden of her detainment pains me every moment of every day. Her children and grandchildren must face every day without her, without any news of her. One of her daughters even moved from her home in Florida to Virginia in order to be closer to Washington, D.C., to do her best to advocate for her release, for her mother's release. All to no avail. She and her sister have also suffered health complaints, and as a result of the distress of their mother's extradition detainment. Our pain is magnified millions of times over the heartbreak felt by every Uyghur around the globe every minute of each day.